prejudice, many wonder if there really is any real progress.
Well, TV8's Chris Heinbaugh and photojournalist Brian Smith spent the last several weeks investigating discrimination right here in the Richmond area. Chris joins us now from the newsroom with more on our special series tonight. Chris?
Lisa and Steve, racism is a topic a lot of people don't like to talk about. It's a dark legacy of a South which Richmond once represented, a legacy which still lingers. Now, for the past month, we've been sending out black and white volunteers to rent apartments, go shopping, buy cars, seeing if our volunteers were treated differently, when the only major difference was race. Now, in most cases, we used outside testers. But being fairly new to Richmond, I wanted to see firsthand what was going on. So in this evening's report, I am the white customer, posing as a clerk on a lunch break. Our focus tonight, some local car dealers. Our African-American volunteer, James Palmer, went first to check out a white Firebird at a used car lot. James waited several minutes, no salesman, so he finally went to the door. James found the manager, but didn't get a sales pitch, handshake, or even a name. James instead was asked a question.
He wanted to know how long I was employed, and he was saying that in most cases, they only, I guess they sell to people who've been working for more than a year because they get a lot of shady characters.
We compared this to the treatment I got when I looked at the same car. I also had to go inside for help, but a salesman then came out and showed me the car. Then he introduced me to the manager, who gave me his name, a warm handshake, and a strong sales pitch. James, on the other hand, appeared to get the cold shoulder.
He didn't really seem in the mood of selling cars.
Was this just a fluke? Well, we tried again at another car dealership down the street. This time, James is looking at the red car. And again, James waited, and waited, and waited, and waited. All the time pacing in front of this window. Inside were several salesmen just a few feet away.
The only way that they could miss me, they would have to be blind. I mean, there's no way that a room full of salesmen could miss me at that view.
Finally, James had to go inside the building himself to find someone to help. In contrast, when I arrived later, it took only a few minutes for a salesman to come out, and he did his best to sell me the car. In fact, he then tried to sell me another, nicer and newer car at the same price. But James got little information about the car unless he specifically asked for it. James, however, did get a friendly but quick goodbye.
There was no effort to show me any other cars or to try to sell me anything. You know, it was like, okay, any more questions? There really was no effort on his behalf to really make an attempt to sell me any car in the lot.
Now, were these cases of discrimination or simply bad service? Well, it's hard to say for sure. Both car dealers emphatically deny that they treat their black and white customers differently. But over the next few nights, we'll show you what we found when we tried to rent an apartment, shop in a mall, and borrow some change on the street. And we'll let you decide for yourself.
Well, Chris, Stephen, I noticed that you did not mention by name the car dealerships that you visited. Any reason for that?
Well, our objective in doing this series is not to point fingers saying, here's a bigot, there's a racist. That just isn't very productive. Instead, by showing some of what we found, we're hoping people will re-examine some of their opinions and the way those attitudes affect the people that they come across each day.
All right, Chris, thank you. We're looking forward to the rest of this series. And if you have questions concerning prejudice...
Well, it's been almost 30 years since the Civil Rights Act was passed, and yet racism is still with us, not only here in Virginia, but in every region of our country.
And for the past 8 months, or for the past month, I should tell you, TV8's Chris Heinbaugh and photojournalist Brian Smith have been examining discrimination in Richmond. And if you were with us last night, you saw the different treatment black and white customers received from a pair of local car dealers.
Well, tonight, Chris joins us with more on what they found when they visited some local apartments here in our area, and he joins us now from the newsroom. Chris?
Steve and Lisa, federal, state, and local laws ban housing bias on the basis of race, religion, sex, creed, age, and handicap. But as we found when we sent our volunteer testers out, those laws haven't put an end to unequal treatment. Our African-American tester, James Palmer, went first, visiting this apartment complex. He left feeling he would be a welcome tenant. Our white tester, Frank Ludwig, also felt he would be welcome, but when it came to a down payment, perhaps just a little bit more welcome.
She said it didn't have an apartment today, but if I gave her a $10 deposit, she'd hold, there's one opening up August 4th, and she'd hold that for me and go from there.
About the same for you?
Well, she told me if I put down $85, that that would hold a room apartment for me.
And this wasn't the only complex where we found this treatment. Here, the manager treated both testers with courtesy, and both felt they could have rented the apartment. But again, the treatment was different.
She wanted to know when I can move in, when my other lease was up. She wanted my name and phone number, and I assume I'll get a phone call from her. And she also told me there was another one opening up off Monument Avenue, so that there's some, probably a quieter apartment.
Did you get that kind of attention?
No, I did not.
She didn't get your phone number and all that?
No, she just inquired about where I was employed.
But neither of these situations came close to what we encountered at another Richmond apartment. Again, James went first, and he was shown a unit at the south end of the complex. But when Frank went in, he was shown a different apartment. Both were looking for a one-bedroom. The unit James was shown was a one-bedroom in good condition, but not very appealing.
The person who was in that particular apartment was in the process of moving out, and so trash bags were kind of scattered around, and I guess it was in the process where it could have needed a paint job and floor wax, for the next person to move in.
But Frank never saw the one-bedroom. He was taken to a two-bedroom and shown how it would be different. He was impressed with what he saw.
It was brand new. They just refurbished it. The walls were painted, crown molding, floors were just redone.
So you'd move in?
Absolutely. It was beautiful.
Constance Chamberlain investigates complaints of housing bias. We told her what happened to James.
He has been given false information. He has not been given the choices that were available to the white tester, and he has been discouraged from renting an apartment. Discouraged in a very subtle fashion, but discouraged.
Now, for the record, the landlords at each of these complexes denied any discrimination, intentional or otherwise.
Chris, Constance made mention of this. We're talking about a very subtle form of discrimination. How then does a case hold up in court, if at all?
Well, it is a problem. Obviously, you don't find as many people just coming out and saying, we don't rent to blacks or Jews or the elderly. So it is more work to prove bias in court. But that's why testers are so important, because only when their experiences are compared is the different treatment uncovered. And a local group, Housing Opportunities Made Equal, or HOME, has used this method for more than 20 years, and they have never lost a case. Tonight at 11, we'll be focusing on that group.
Okay, Chris, and we will see you tonight at 11 o'clock then.
Okay. Thank you, Chris.
No, and last night, more than 100 of you took advantage of the TV8 helpline to get your legal questions answered concerning discrimination.
And tonight, if you have questions about housing discrimination,